Welcome. On the news, Israel's defense minister shifts Gaza war tactics. North Korea fires artillery into South Korea's maritime buffer. Rescuers extract Japan quake survivors. ISIS claims deadliest Iran attack since 1979 revolution. And Myanmar shells hit China, wounding 5. On Israel-Gaza war, Yoav Gallant, Israeli defense minister, has drawn Israel's plans for the next phase of its assault on the besieged Gaza Strip and future scenarios for the day after the war ends. In the northern region of the Gaza Strip, we will transition to a new combat approach in accordance with military achievements on the ground, Gallant's office said in a statement. It said it outlined the guiding principles reflecting Gallant's vision for the next phases of the war. On Thursday, he said operations will include attacks, demolition tunnels, air and ground strikes, and special forces operations. In the south of the besieged enclave, where most of Gaza's 2.3 million population is presently living, several in tents and other temporary shelters, the operation will continue to try to eliminate Hamas leaders and rescue Israeli hostages. It will continue for as long as it deemed necessary, the statement said. Israel began its offensive in Gaza following the October 7th attack by Hamas gunmen who killed some 1,140 people in communities near Gaza and took around 240 into captivity as hostages, according to Israeli estimates. According to Palestinian health authorities, Israel's war in Gaza has killed over 22,400 people and has forced most of the population out of their homes and reduced much of Gaza to rubble. Gallant also drew Israel's plans for Gaza after the war. He said Hamas will no longer control Gaza and Israel will reserve its operational freedom of action. But he said there will be no Israeli civilian presence and Palestinian bodies will be in charge of the enclave. Gaza residents are Palestinian, therefore Palestinian bodies will be in charge with the condition that there will be no hostile actions or threats against the state of Israel, Gallant's office said in a statement on Thursday. On Friday, South Korea's military criticized its northern neighbor after Pyongyang fired artillery rounds that fell within a maritime buffer zone that has long been a flashpoint between the two. North Korea fired over 200 rounds between 9 o'clock a.m. and 11 a.m. off its west coast close to South Korea's Byangyeong and Yeonpyeong Islands, according to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, JCS. The artillery fell north of the Northern Limits Line, NLL, a disputed de facto border drawn up by the United Nations at the end of the Korean War in 1953. The incoming rounds did not harm any civilians or military, the JCS added, calling the incident a provocative act that threatens peace and intensifies tension on the Korean peninsula. In reaction, South Korea's military said it will hold its own maritime shooting drills on Friday afternoon, with Yeonpyeong residents ordered to evacuate to close-by shelters during that time and refrain from doing outdoor activities, according to a government website message and a local resident report. According to its local office website, Yeonpyeong, a tiny island that only measures 3 square miles, is home to over 2,100 people. Byangyeong Island, about 18 square miles, has over 4,900 residents. It is not unprecedented for North Korea to fire shells into the maritime buffer zone, but such acts do raise tensions. The hermit nation resumed firing artillery within the buffer zone after scrapping an inter-Korean military agreement last November, the JCS said. Numerous rounds were also fired in the same area in late 2022. The military agreement was signed in 2018 as part of attempts with the United States to contain the threat of war on the Korean peninsula and widen the buffer zone between the two Koreas. But ties have weakened since the show pulling back from the agreement and both sides ramping up military exercises and weapon tests. The South Korean military is currently working with the U.S. to track related movements and will take actions corresponding to North Korea's provocation, the JCS said on Friday. It is not unusual for North Korea to fire artillery into the wet sea during its winter exercises, said Leif Erik Isley, a professor at Ewha University in Seoul. What's different this year is the two Koreas have recently backed away from a military confidence building agreement, and Kim Jong-un has publicly disavowed reconciliation and unification with the South. On Sunday, North Korea reported that the Hermit Nation's leader, Kim Jong-un, has said the state will no longer seek reconciliation and reunification with South Korea. Kim said inter-Korean ties have become a relationship between two hostile countries and two belligerents at war, according to report. He reportedly added that if the US and South Korea attempt a military confrontation with the North, its nuclear war deterrent will not hesitate to take serious actions. Now, there are some survivors of the deadly 7.5 magnitude quake that hit Japan on Monday, which devastated the formerly idyllic seaside city of Wajima. It had hit Ishikawa Prefecture. In the city, once a popular tourist destination famous for its bustling morning markets, firefighters and rescue workers worked through the night to find those still stuck or missing. And while rescues like that of the woman aged in her 80s on Thursday providing glimmers of hope, the search grew progressively desperate as the clock ticked, with at least 242 people still unaccounted for, according to the prefecture. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida on Thursday said the situation is terribly challenging, but until those 72 hours crucial for saving lives pass, we will do our utmost to save and rescue as many people as possible with everything we have on the ground. The first 72 hours after a natural disaster are considered the golden period for survivors, as the condition of people stuck and wounded can deteriorate quickly afterward. In Suzu City, about an hour's drive from Wajima across the battered Noto Peninsula, video from Wednesday showed rescuers digging through the rubble of a collapsed house and carrying out a 79-year-old man covered in dust and dirt. But the search has been delayed by the sheer volume of destruction across the prefecture, as well as poor weather and constant aftershocks. Whole communities have been cut off by landslides and impassable roads. Telecommunications also pose a problem, with phone lines, mobile masts, and the internet down in many areas. ISIS has claimed responsibility for the deadly twin blast close to the burial site of slain military commander Qasem Soleimani in southern Iran. According to report, no less than 84 people were killed and 284 wounded in the blasts on Wednesday in what was the deadliest attack in Iran since its 1979 revolution. On Thursday, ISIS issued a statement over 24 hours after the explosions, claiming two suicide bombers who are brothers had detonated their explosive vests as Shiite mourners assembled for the 4th anniversary of the assassination of Soleimani near his grave in his hometown of Kerman. The statement, titled "And Kill Them Wherever You Find Them," named the two bombers and said they targeted a gathering of polytheists near the grave of their dead leader, Soleimani. ISIS considers the Shia branch of Islam to be heretical and has aimed shrines and religious sites in Iran formally. The group offered no further proof, and the account of the blast differs from that given by Iranian media. The death toll provided by ISIS was also significantly higher than that reported by Iranian officials. Iran did not quickly comment on ISIS' claim of responsibility, but reports from Iran said ISIS' claim of responsibility. Both referred to the group by its Arabic name Daesh, with screenshot of the terror group's claim that has appeared on multiple ISIS forums. Iran's interior minister said the two blasts happened in short succession, with the second deadlier blast coming as others rushed to help the wounded. Iran declared Thursday a day of mourning, and President Ibrahim Raisi cancelled a scheduled trip to Turkey. Accusations flew in the time between the blast and ISIS statement. Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi blamed Israel for the explosions and warned it will pay a heavy price. Moving ahead, China has protested to Myanmar after 5 people were wounded by artillery shells lobbed during fights between its ruling junta and rebel groups that drifted into a small town close to the border, a foreign ministry spokesperson said on Thursday. Armed conflict has soared in Myanmar's north between the military and rebel groups since late last October. prompting calls for a ceasefire from neighboring China, which has also facilitated dialogue between the two sides. Wang Wenbin, the spokesperson, said China strongly deplores the Chinese casualties caused by the conflict and has already lodged serious representations with the relevant parties. China once again asks all parties to conflict to cease fire and stop fighting and take measures to prevent the recurrence of such vicious incidents, Wang said, according to report. China will take the needed measures to safeguard the lives and property of its citizens, he added. Earlier report said 5 people in Nansen, a subtropical town near Myanmar, were taken to a hospital after being wounded on Wednesday by the stray shells. The incident comes after China's embassy in Myanmar urged its nationals last week to leave Lukai as soon as possible, citing rising security risks. On more stories, U.S. restrains Iranian proxies amid wider Mid-East warfares. U.S. officials are battling with how to react to intensifying attacks by Iran-backed proxy groups on U.S. troops and ships in the Red Sea without sparking a border war in the Middle East. The U.S. has retaliated many times to the proxy groups' attacks, striking militants and infrastructure in Iraq and Syria and shooting down missiles and drones launched by the Houthi rebels in Yemen. U.S. officials have also conveyed to Iran and its proxies via black channels that attacks must stop, and on Sunday the U.S. killed a group of Houthi militants attempting to board and seize a commercial vessel in the Red Sea. A senior administration official said the U.S. will not hesitate to use deadly force against the Houthis in self-defense. If that happened again, we will probably do the exact same thing, the official said. But the U.S. has been deeply unenthusiastic to move beyond self-defense strikes and back-channel diplomacy, even as the Pentagon has drawn up various options for President Joe Biden to strike the Houthis inside Yemen, should he choose that approach, officials said, according to report. Since Israel launched its war against Hamas in Gaza following the terror group's attack on October 7th, the U.S. has been scrabbling behind the scenes to stop a broader multi-country war from igniting. But the challenge has only added, with tensions rising this week following an Israeli strike on a Hamas leader in Lebanon and a major ISIS terror attack in Iran on top of the regular Iranian proxy attacks. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said, according to reports on Wednesday, "We remain incredibly concerned, as we have been from the outset of this conflict, about the risk of the conflict spreading into other fronts. The U.S. has been particularly cautious of undercutting a U.S. and United Nations brokered truce between Saudi Arabia and the Houthis over the war in Yemen, and the Biden administration considers one of its crowning foreign policy achievements," a senior U.S. official said. Some in the administration, however, believe the Houthis flourish at war and want to draw U.S. forces into a prolonged engagement. A years-long Saudi-led campaign against the Houthis did not eliminate the rebel group, officials have pointed out. Another senior U.S. official said the Houthis are already isolating countries whose support is crucial for a peace deal in Yemen. Now, Iowa school shooting injures several, U.S. officials said. Numerous people have been injured in a shooting at a high school in Perry, Iowa in the U.S., officials have said. Dallas County Sheriff Adam Infante said at a news briefing on Thursday that the shooting at Perry High School took place just about 7:30 a.m. and resulted in multiple victims. He said the degree and precise number of injuries were still being determined. A spokesperson for Unity Point Health, which operates a nearby Des Moines hospital, confirmed that 2 gunshot victims had arrived. There were few students and faculty in the building at the time of the incident, Infante said. The suspect in the shooting has reportedly died due to what investigators believe is a self-inflicted gunshot wound, a law enforcement official said, according to reports, on condition of anonymity. At the briefing, Infante said the shooter had been identified but gave no further details. A U.S. Department of Justice spokesperson said FBI and U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives ATF agents have responded to the scene, and the U.S. Attorney General has been briefed. There are a bunch of speculative numbers floating around. Dirk Canaver, the mayor of Paris, said, "We have no confirmed numbers of who was involved yet." He added, The attack occurred as Iowa is anticipated to hold the first statewide contest for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination in 11 days. Republican candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, an entrepreneur who founded a biotechnology company, was scheduled to hold a rally in Perry but changed the event to an in-person prayer after reports of the shooting, a campaign spokesperson had said. In Africa, U.S. dismisses South Africa's Israel genocide accusation. The U.S. has sacked South Africa's case against Israel at the International Court of Justice, ICJ. South Africa argued that Israel is committing genocidal acts in Gaza in the case filed at the ICJ last week. U.S. Department of State spokesperson Matthew Miller on Wednesday said, as pertains to the United States, we are not seeing any acts that constitute genocide, but there are military operations going on that put Palestinian people at risk, Miller added. Wednesday, White House National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby also said the U.S. considers the case meritless, counterproductive, and totally without any basis in fact whatsoever. Israel rejected South Africa's genocide allegation, terming it baseless and blood libel. South Africa is supporting Palestinians in the ongoing war, while the U.S. has supported Israel with military assistance and weapons. Now we'll take a short break, and when we come back, I'll bring you more stories. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Stories from Nigeria says EFCC searches Dangote headquarters, probes 51 firms. On Thursday, operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission EFCC raided the headquarters of Dangote Industries Limited in Ikoyi, Lagos, in continuance of the current probe into the alleged abuse of the foreign exchange allocations by the immediate past governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele. The Anti-Graft Commission is probing the alleged preferential allocations of forex to Dangote Group owned by billionaire Aliko Dangote and 51 other companies under the Emefiele-led Central Bank of Nigeria. Two senior officials of the FCC confirmed the presence of the anti-graft operatives at the Dangote but refused to speak on the reason for their presence. According to reports, the Anti-Graft Commission had earlier written to the 52 companies directing them to provide documents supporting the allocation and utilization of foreign exchange sold to them at official rates in the last 10 years. The FCC had asked the firms to submit Form A and Form M, which detailed the forex allocations to them between 2014 and June 2023. But while some companies obeyed the directive, many others were said to have asked for time to get the proper documents. Until June 2023, Nigeria operated manifold exchange rates, which economists said contributed to the distortions in forex allocation, market volatility, and fluctuations. The policy was blamed for the inflationary pressures on the naira and the thriving black market activities, which were said to have undermined the effectiveness of the CBN monetary policies. The surprise operation at the Dangote headquarters, which was carried out by the FCC detectives during working hours, shocked the staff and jolted the visitors to the building. During the search, the operatives raided offices and carted away several financial documents connected to forex allocations to the group from 2014 to June 2023, when Emefiele was suspended from office by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And finally, on judicial matters, Governor Mutfwang urges Supreme Court to annul sack. Caleb Mutfwang, Plateau State Governor, had admonished the Supreme Court to nullify the judgment of the Court of Appeal, which sacked him from office. The governor, who made this request in his appeal filed before the Apex Court by an 8-man team of senior advocates of Nigeria's sons, led by Chief Kanu Agabi, accused the lower court of not giving him and his party, the People's Democratic Party (PDP), fair hearing. On November 19, 2023, a 3-man panel of the Court of Appeal, led by Justice Alfreda Williams Dawodu, had nullified the election of Governor Mutfwang and ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to issue a certificate of return to the candidates of the All Progressives Congress (APC), Nentawe Goshwe. The appellate court held that the appeal brought by Goshwe was valid, as the qualification issue was both a pre- and post-election matter under Section 177, subsection C of the Nigerian Constitution and Sections 80 and 82 of the Electoral Act 2022. Discontented with the judgment, the governor articulated 8 grounds of appeal on why the Supreme Court should validate his election. He argued that the issue of nomination and sponsorship, which underpinned ground 1 of the petitions by the APC, is not only a pre-election matter, but within the internal affairs of the 4th respondent PDP, and as such the 1st and 2nd respondents lack the local standing to canvass it. The appellate also argued that the judgment of the lower court delivered on November 19, 2023 is fatally flawed for want of jurisdiction regarding Section 285, subsection 2 of the Constitution. He insisted that disobedience of court order is not one of the grounds for maintaining an election petition under Section 134 of the Electoral Act, nor is it part of Section 177, subsection C of the Constitution, let alone disqualifying the appellant from contesting the election. The governor further maintained that given the overwhelming oral and documentary evidence, including but not limited to Exhibits U and ARA3, the 4th respondent complied with Exhibit G1 by conducting a state congress on September 25th, 2021 in Plateau State. He also contended that the evidence of the 16th prosecution witness was thoroughly discredited and controverted. As such, the lower court was wrong to heavily depend on it against him. Therefore, Mutuang has argued through his lawyers that he had shown in his brief that for all aims and purposes, the judgment of the lower court had occasioned injustice of unquantifiable magnitude to him. He also maintained that the law is settled that wherever there is a wrong, there must be a remedy, and that this principle of law, which is of considerable antiquity, is expressed in the dictum. Again, the top story says Israel's defense minister shifts Gaza war tactics. North Korea fires artillery into South Korea's maritime buffer. Rescuers extract Japan quick survivors. ISIS claims deathless Iran attack since 1979 revolution. And Myanmar shells hits China, wounding 5. And that's all on the news. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend ahead.